Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 2 of Market Mind Games, right? So guys, today we're going to be breaking down analysis paralysis. And I have a feeling I'm going to piss a lot of people off out there today while making this episode, because today we're going to really dive deep into accountability, but more importantly, why you're not getting the results you truly want. It's not the market's fault, right? It's the fact that you have so much emotion tied to the outcome, right? Where you cannot perform or execute properly, right? You guys aren't implementing risk reward the way you should. Instead, you're trying to be green each and every single day, right? So when you're not green, you then dive deep into social media and all the million strategies out there. And then what this does is create all those neurological pathways in your brain that are now conflicting, right? Well, this strategy tells me to do this. This strategy tells me to do that. What happens? You're in a state of analysis paralysis. You cannot act. You cannot make a move. You cannot make a decision, right? So we're going to break right into it. What is analysis paralysis, right? It's overthinking a problem to the point that it becomes more difficult to decide. And it often happens, right, for two big reasons. Number one, you're overwhelmed by an emotional state, right, fear, which is due to being so attached to the outcome, right? So when you're super attached to the outcome, I used to think it was about the money. I don't want to lose money. No, you don't want to be wrong. You do not want to lose. You desire, right? You have such a deep desiring state, right? To accomplish this trade, to be right, to prove yourself right, that you are now extremely afraid of being wrong. Right. And I get it. We don't like to be wrong. We want to feel good. Right. But you guys got to understand, when you're operating from that low frequency of fear and desire, which is from that shame and guilt from the previous trade, right, you're not going to make the right decisions. Instead, you're not going to perform. You're not going to execute your edge properly. You're not going to get in when you should. You're not going to get out when you should. You're not going to manage risk the way you should. And you're not going to take profits the way you should. Right. And now these lead straight to trading errors, which deplete and diminish and decimate your account, right? So number two, all of that, right? All those bad results that you get from number one, right, which was from fear, leads to number two, which is now you dive deep into social media and you learn all these million strategies, right? And what this does is literally creates all these conflicting beliefs in your brain. And now you cannot even act, right? Because if I'm putting on a trade, it's because I think I have an edge, right? We don't just go, oh, I'm going long for no reason. No, you go, no, I'm going long because I believe there's an edge in front of my eyes, right? There's a double bottom. It doesn't even matter the strategy, right? Say it's a double bottom. But now, since you dove so deep into social media and all these different strategies over time, right? You now, once you're right before you're about to click that buy button, you go, oof. But remember that last time when I put on that trade and it was a double bottom and then sellers just pushed right down below? Maybe I shouldn't act on this, right? Maybe I'll just wait a little bit longer. So now you don't get the proper entry, right? And then buyers come in and start to push price up. And you go, oh no, now I'm going to miss it. So now you enter, and you're entering extremely far away from where your proper entry was. And now you cannot manage risk. Now your proper entry is about, $1.50 away. And maybe you can't hold your trade for $1.50, because that'll literally, if you're trading options, $1.50 is going to be at least 50, 60, 70% of your investment. So now you've put yourself in a bad scenario, right? So now, due to fear, you've improperly executed what actually works, right? And all that information led to the fear, led to the conflicting belief, led to the inconsistent result. And then the wheel goes on, right? And we're going to dive into what that wheel actually looks like, right? So that is what analysis paralysis is. Okay, but we're going to dive into number one, right? So number one was define your emotional state and where it comes from, right? So there's two types of emotional states. There's low frequency, right? And there's high frequency. So based on your results, your past, you build a relationship with the market, right? When you first start trading, you approach the market with, kind of like an equal state, right? Where it's kind of like you're super high frequency. You have tons, you're just learning. You're like, oh man, I can get rich through doing this. I'm very attracted to this, right? Because this is a calling. I want to figure this out. And then you start to lose, right? Because nobody can have a winning trade every day. It doesn't work that way. It's not supposed to, right? So then through losing, you then start to become afraid, right? And what this usually does to the trader is causes him to then, dive very deep into analysis, which is very important. We're supposed to understand the market, but a trader will usually take it much further than it needs to be, right? And he will start to dive very deep into all these different strategies, right? And really try to get them and flesh them out. And what this does is takes the trader away from what actually works, right? Bring it back to the poker tournament or blackjack. Risk reward is the only way to consistency, right? Not figuring out every strategy, not learning how to count cards. No, it's risk reward. I bet this much, and when the trade works for me, I then add to my trade. I increase the odds of me making money, right? Through probabilities. So once again, when you go through that negative experience of losing trades for maybe a month, 2 months, for me, it went on for 5 years. 5 years, I continuously made bad decisions in the market. I continuously acted out of fear. I continuously made trading errors, right? I would do all right, but then I would decimate my account with a trading error. I'd hold on to a loser for too long. I couldn't accept the loss, right? And in reality, it wasn't the loss I couldn't accept. It was the emotional state I could not accept. I did not want to feel that shame, that guilt, that I knew would lead to more fear the next time, right? I wanted to start to build conviction, right? So once again, conviction is a high frequency state, right? So once you go over here to the high frequency side, you're going to see awareness, faith, conviction, confidence, serenity, right? What is serenity? And what is serenity? God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, the wisdom to know the difference. To be serene is to be acceptance, right? I don't need this to work for me, right? I cannot control if this trade works for me, right? Only thing I can control is my edge, is my ability to act on it, is risk reward, risk management, reward management, right? These are the things I can control. I can control when I get in, when I can get out. That's literally all I need to control, right? The market's going to do what the market does. Its job is to provide movement. The movement is how we make money. Our awareness to who's in control then presents us an edge, and our ability to act on that awareness, act on that edge with proper risk reward is our only way to consistent results, right? Equanimity, right? Equanimity means mentally calm, very meekness, right? I do not care what happens. I can operate from an extremely stressful scenario. I can operate properly. Equanimity, very important, right? Acceptance, structured. See, guys, this is the way you want to approach the market. And if you're not approaching the market in this frequency, you're not going to get the results you want, right? Okay, number 2, too much information creating conflicting beliefs, right? I know we already talked about this a bit, but now we're going to dive deep, right? So while operating out of a low frequency, right? This is fear, this is shame, this is guilt. Our mind will perceive the market in a threatening manner, right? Subconsciously try to protect us from this threatening state. See, once again, if you're not playing the risk reward game, right? If you're not playing the probability game, meaning I don't care about this loser, I know out of 10 trades, 7 work for me. And if I bet this much, over time I make money. See, if you're not playing that game, if you're playing the emotional state game, meaning I want a green trade to feel good, you're going to operate from fear, right? You're going to perceive the candles in a threatening manner. I'm sure a lot of traders can relate to this, right? My heart used to beat. It would beat like a drum before the market went off at 9:30. I'd be so worried. Listen, if I truly believed in risk reward and my ability to follow it, what am I afraid of? I'm never going to lose more than X, right? I have a strict, I never like to lose more than $200 on a premium. That's it, right? I trade SPX. I'm only going to lose 200. That's around, 30% per premium. That's it. That's the worst thing that can happen. Sometimes it's less depending on my entry. See, if I accept that, there's no reason to be afraid. Now I can be equanimous. I can have that mental clarity because if I'm not afraid, I won't be threatened by the candles, right? I won't be subconsciously trying to protect myself from this threatening state. None of us like to feel fear. None of us like to be anxious. So when we're under those states, we literally cannot perceive the market information properly, right? This literally causes our cognitive function to become incoherent and dismayed, leading us to improperly execute our strategy and neglect to implement risk reward. Say that one more time, right? This threatening state will literally cause our cognitive function, our ability to make decisions, to become incoherent and dismayed, leading us to improperly execute our strategy and neglect to implement risk reward. See, that risk reward part is the most important part because even if you cannot cognitively function properly, if you operate out of risk reward, meaning you cut your losses and you let your winners run, you'll still make money. And you guys will start to realize that's why there's so many strategies out there. The strategy really doesn't even matter. As long as you can follow whatever it is your strategy implies and implement risk reward, you will make money. There's literally one of my best friends, Darren Bowman. He posted on his Instagram, Bowman Board of Trade. He did a coin flip, right, with a quarter, right? And every time that coin landed on heads, he made $20. Every time it landed on tails, he lost $10, right? So even with flipping a coin, he proved consistent profitability. See, guys, once again, it's not the strategy. It's how you're approaching it. It's your risk, your reward, right? So all of that, right? The threatening state, the improper execution, it leads to insufficient results, obviously, right? So due to lack of proper execution of what works, right, will then lead us to believe the strategy doesn't work properly and cause us to delve deep into finding a new one, right? Us as humans, we don't like accountability, right? We don't like saying it was my fault. In reality, we always like to say the market did this, the market makers caused me to, lose 80% of this trade. No, dude, you let it go that bad. It's your fault. And the sooner you can accept that, the sooner you can operate from that high frequency, right? So the result from all this is too much information, creating conflicting beliefs about what actually works, right? So now we're going to dive into the insanity hamster wheel that I did for 5 years, guys. I did this for 5 years. Okay, so number one, you put on a losing trade, regardless of why the trade is a loss, is irrelevant. And I just want to state that it does not matter why you lost the trade. It could have been proper execution. It could have been the market. Powell came out and spoke and tanked the market. It could be a million reasons. It doesn't matter. A losing trade will lead to an emotional state, right? Where you don't feel good. If you're operating from that state. See, if you're playing probabilities, if you understand a loss is part of the game, then it's not going to affect your emotional state. But if you're not playing probabilities and you do not operate from that emotional state, a losing trade will then lead to fear, right? And then fear of failure, right, will lead to improper execution on the next trade, just like the example we broke down about the double bottom, right? Price comes into demand twice. First time buyers defended it, second time buyers are defending it, right? Now buyers, you don't want to enter where you should because you need a little more confluence or whatever, right? So you wait and then you miss your entry. So now you're afraid to enter. But then you become more afraid of missing out. And then when you're afraid of missing out, what do? You enter. And in reality, you're entering extremely away from the moving average and the pullback, right? And now when you don't get your proper entry, all you traders know, managing risk can be extremely hard. So what do? You don't manage the risk, right? Because buyers did defend demand. And what happens? You're trading in a downtrend, market comes down, tanks, and you don't have a stop loss in, leading to another trading error, right? What does that trading error lead to? Inconsistent results, right? So now you're looking at your results, you're looking at your equity curve, and you're going, damn, man, this strategy is shot. It's not working well. I don't know. Are you sure? Who's the guy teaching it to me? Dude, it's not the fucking strategy. It's you. It's your ability to implement what actually works, right? So then you find the new strategy, and what happens? You have another losing trade, because a losing trade's inevitable. There's no way to never not have a losing trade. So once again, until you can learn to accept the loss, right? And not just the loss of money, but the loss of ego, you're never going to get out of this hamster wheel, right? So once again, guys, how do we move forward, right? Josh, you did this for 5 years. How'd you stop doing it, right? Is the $1 million question. How do we actually operate from a high frequency while trading? And it's to build a new understanding. So I talk about this with all my clients, and this is exactly what the self-mastery mentorship is all about, right? It's all about building a new relationship with the market, right? So once again, that old relationship, the incoherent, the dismayed, the inconsistency, right? The betrayal, the fear, all of that comes from inconsistent results and not performing well, right? So what happens is we condition our mind to lose. We become addicted to losing. We become addicted to the trading errors because it's familiar. So for us to build a new relationship with the market, we have to get unfamiliar, and we have to actually become clear on what actually works. Bring it back to that coin flip, right? The coin toss. You can literally become consistently profitable with flipping a coin, right? If the coin had the ability to pay you and to take money from you. See, the coin doesn't, but the market does. Once again, it doesn't matter what you're doing. The market is nothing other than a tool that provides you with movement. And movement can pay because everybody's constantly betting on if it's going up or down. So once again, becoming clear on what works. Your edge isn't what works. It's your ability to flawlessly execute it with risk management is what works, right? And so once again, becoming clear on what actually works and where you're improperly executing, right? Once again, awareness over analysis every single time, right? And risk reward. Are you implementing it? Are you actually acting on your edge without hesitation, without reservation, right? Like Mark Douglas said, the latent great. If you're not acting on your edge without hesitation, then your edge isn't there, right? Build that new relationship with the market, right? And the information it gives us. See, once again, if we're looking at the information as threatening, we're never going to see it properly, right? Our bodies, right, through long-term conditioning, right, when we're afraid, we cannot act well. Think about it. If a murderer came in your house and you were aware he was in there and he was looking for you, would you be able to break down a math problem? Absolutely not. You wouldn't be able to tie your shoes, right? Because once again, cognitively, you cannot operate from the left and right side of the brain at the same time, right? So guys, until we can learn to accept, right, what the market's here to give us, we're going to operate out of fear. Learn to trade in probabilities. Put your trust in risk reward. Build that new relationship, right? Why are you even trading? This is a big one. This was a massive one for me. Was I trading for that emotional state of happiness because my trade was green? Or was I trading for results? See, if I'm trading for results, there's not a trader out there that can argue that risk reward is the only way to obtaining results. We all know that. But then why aren't we implementing it? Why are we holding on to losers, right? Why aren't we letting our winners run to where they should? If your risk reward ratio is a 1-3, meaning I risk $100 to make 300, why aren't you operating on it? Why don't you know your win ratio, right? Why don't you know how many times you need to be right to sustain consistent profitability? See, I'll ask traders this and they have no clue. It's because they're not operating from it, right? And guys, last one is faith over fear. Learn to develop faith. Listen, I understand you've been burnt. I was there too. I was burnt for a very long time. But until I could learn to play a different game, I continued to get burnt. So learn to trade with risk reward. I hope you guys enjoyed this segment, right? I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun making it because it took me back through a time where I really operated from out of fear, right? Guys, it's not fun. I don't wish it on any trader. And for anybody serious about really diving deep into more, like going through the exercise, check out the links below, guys. I offer an extensive self-mastery mentorship. I literally have one more slot open for any trader willing to do it, right? Guys, hope you enjoyed this lesson. Any likes, any comments, any concerns, leave them below, and I'll see you in the next episode of Market Mind Games.